In the last few years that I've been dealing with chronic illness, my husband would always point out the terrible condition of our front yard. And I would be like, dude, that's the least of my worries. I don't even think about yard work. It's not even something I care about. I'm trying to, stand and walk and be functional. About a few years later, I'm coming back from my walk that I try to do. And I just had this...
Mommy.
Hi. I just had this urge to just start pulling weeds. I didn't even know what I was gonna do. I just found my husband's gloves and I just started pulling weeds. It was really hard at first. It was really laborious, especially with, still dealing with symptoms. But I just wanted to do it. I just needed something to do. And then I noticed I was feeling better. I would pull for as long as I felt like I could. So at first it was like, I don't know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Felt like throwing up, felt like passing out. Felt like I couldn't do it the whole time, but I just kept doing it because I knew I was fine and I wanted to do it. After about a month of doing it 2 or 3 times a week, I noticed that I started feeling better. And I think it comes down to these things. I think it's because your body is doing something. And in my case, I'm doing something new. And your mind's not thinking. And you are achieving something. You're getting something done. You're cleaning up. And then I just had this thought after, I was doing this after doing mind change for a few months, almost a year. And I realized, I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is metaphoric. Because I'm physically pulling weeds outside in my physical reality now. I wonder if this is metaphoric for the fact that I've been pulling weeds in my mind. Removing all the limiting core beliefs, anything in my past that was making me feel guilt, shame, resentment, bitterness, and I'm cleaning up my mind and I'm cleaning up my heart. So maybe me just randomly starting to pull weeds and clean up my yard represents that, because what we're doing in our mind is manifests in our reality, is what we believe, right? When you do all this mind change, all this work. I was catching up with my first mind body coach, Aoife Mind Body, shout out to her. And I was telling her, oh, I'm starting to do yard work and pull weeds. And she was like, oh, that's good. And she told me something really profound. And she said, when your brain gets bored, it goes back to your old habits. It's easier to go back to your old habits. And that's why it's so important to just try new things, pick up new hobbies, at least give it a try it out, because your brain can get bored. With neuroplasticity, we have to keep feeding it new things, new experiences. It wants to learn. We were created to learn for the rest of our lives. So it made a lot of sense to me, and I really took what she said to heart. And I can tell in my gut, I can feel it in my body that this just being outside and doing something manual, and this is coming from someone who I don't consider myself an outdoorsy girl, although when I look back at my childhood, growing up in Hawaii, we were always outside. It was the 90s. We were always outside. We were always exploring with the neighborhood kids, biking, going down to the river, hoping that no one comes back with a terrible injury, things like that. It was just such a different time. But somehow along the way I picked up this idea that I'm not an outdoorsy girl. I don't enjoy it. But now I'm starting to understand that I think those were all coping mechanisms, and I think all humans, we were created to be outside in the sun, in nature, moving, because movement is medicine. And I was just pleasantly surprised that this just pulling weeds was making me feel just so much better mentally, physically, emotionally even. It's a great stress reliever. So I guess I'm saying, if you are anything like me or were like me and you never considered yourself an outdoorsy person and you never considered doing yard work as fun or whatever, just give it a try, and you might be surprised at how effective it is at just making you feel better.